All right. Good evening, all. Welcome to Axanar Confidential number 59. I am, of course, your host, Alec Peters. And tonight I am pleased to have with me Haley Leary. Haley Nicole Leary, as I see your
yeah, Haley.
Haley.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I let you get away with it because that's just how you say it.
I know. Well, listen, everyone calls me Alex, so you know.
I did for the longest, and then I was like, Alec.
It's happened forever. Haley. Okay, Haley. All right. Okay, I'll get it. How you doing, Haley?
Good. How are you?
Good. You all you weathering the lock-in?
Yeah, as best as I can. Luckily, my side gig is letting me still work from home for right now. So it's.
And what's your side gig?
I work a couple days a week, and one of my good friend Jacob Kahn's salons. He's a really cool, like, creative in the hair industry, and it was a really easy transition for me to do something part-time and get me out of the house in between acting gigs, because I knew everyone there. So it was cool. Easy transition.
Cool. Oh, okay. Very good. So you're still doing that?
Yeah. I'm doing clerical from home.
Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah.
That's easy. Here, I'm going to share share this real quick.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
To a couple groups. It's so much easier to do it. Just do it on my phone. But yeah, you don't hit me like the kind of person who's going to really handle being locked in for 2 months real well.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I'm that introvert extrovert that everyone always says they are. Like, I like my alone time a lot. I spend a lot of time. I get really bad social anxiety and like,
really?
Yeah, rubbing. I was one time at a place and I've like established myself there and kind of gotten the feel for stuff. But it's the anticipation that I think a lot of people with social anxiety, that's the hardest part for them, is like the build up and getting out.
Okay, I got you. I never would have guessed. You're so easygoing and stuff. I know, it's so funny. It's all the introverts are all they all post on Facebook like, I've been preparing for this all my life.
You think that, but then like there are mornings where you just wake up and you're like, nope, today's a wash. I'm not doing anything. It sucks. I'd be like, because as creatives and as artists, like, as introverted as we might be, we need life experience and conversations, right, and like physicalities with people in order to inspire us. And so if we're locked in the same location, we have to go alternative routes for inspiration. And that's where people struggle, I think.
Well, I keep wanting to do stuff at the studio. I'm like,
yeah.
Isn't the studio just, I'm like, oh, well, we're just doing it at the studio. That's not social, right? Oh, no, we can't, huh?
Yeah.
Like, oh, really? It's like, I just keep going. So Jeff and I, Jeff, who was one of the camera operators when you were there, and he's DP'd a couple of shoots for us.
Okay.
He and I were talking, and I'm like, well, how are we going to shoot these war stories? I said, how few people can we get away with actually, to do a shoot? I said, look,
right,
you need the actor, you need Jeff, the DP, Dakota, who's kind of like does everything, gaffing, and like he can do everything. We're like, okay, that's 3. Me is 4. I'm like, we can probably get away with 4.
Right.
And oh, that's still too many. I'm like, oh, God, fuck that shit. We need to get in the studio and do some shit. I mean, I'm just like, I was lucky. We had the shoot for Axanar. We had our 3rd shoot in March 15th. It was like literally March 15th.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And it was like, if we had done it a week later, we would have had to call it off.
Mm-hmm.
But we got it in, and it was all my stuff, right? Because I didn't, in October, we kind of pushed me off because we had so much to get through, and we didn't need to do me. So
yeah.
Anyway. But and so ever since then, I'm like, oh, God, can't we just get in the studio and shoot some this and this? What we don't need everyone, just need 4 people. Christ.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things that it's more or less the taboo of doing it right now. I think that people are struggling with, because it's like, well, if they're doing it, why can't we do it? And it's, we have to lead by example type of thing. So
I know.
It's frustrating. It's so frustrating because logistically it makes sense, but people can't separate that from like what they actually want to be doing.
Yeah. And it's like, well, we can all, except for the actor, we could all wear masks on set. Like, you know, come on. Anyway, so, well, so what were you working on before the lockdown happened?
So luckily, kind of like you, the first week in March, I was up in Columbia, South Carolina, shooting a feature film. And I was up there for a week and a couple days in February. And we did that the 3rd through like the 8th. And then that day I got back, I did an industrial for I think it was like some internal like medical app where you could connect to doctors online.
Okay.
And but yeah, we got those done, and then 7 days later everything just stopped. And it was kind of like financially nice because you knew that money was coming from at least doing those. But I was like on a veil for a few things that obviously are pushed, and my short film that I was creating with Tony Reams and Luke and few other people, Tim Doss, Luke Godfrey, and a bunch of people. We were getting together for this 2-day shoot, and it was going to only be 3 actors, me, Luke, and Victor. And we had to push everything, just because what we were doing is you have to be such in close proximity with each other that we just, for everyone's safety. And a lot of people on crew had kids. So, you know, you got to kind of think bigger than, you know, just the people that are in the room, because all of us go see everyone else. But it just, I mean, it's a bummer, man, because you just, I don't know, like you're like me, you just want to be creating all the time and your brain doesn't stop. So
now I'm like, oh, I gotta be okay. Well, then I gotta write. If I'm not gonna do that, I'm just gonna have to stack up all the writing. By the way, I can tell who are the people that you brought with you to this, because they're all like totally trolling you. Like, is Clint Ross yours? Haley is one talented actress.
I can't see the.
Oh, you don't see?
Wait, live comments. Now I can. Okay. Now I can see them.
And her tattoos are amazing.
Oh, I'm going outside to watch.
So, yeah, who else? But anyway, yeah, cool. You're already of it. Hey, listen, this is what I'm going to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is I just want to show everyone your film, your reel.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, because I think, you know, it's one thing when people are like J.G. Hertzler or Gary Graham, or, you know, people who were in Prelude. Everyone knows who they are, and they know they're, you know, you don't have to see JG's really, you know, oh, he was Martok in Deep Space Nine, or he was this and that. You know, no one knows you as an actor. And we'll talk a little bit about, you know, the audition and what you did on set and this, that. But I want first everyone to kind of get a little view of what you are. So we're going to watch Haley's reel, and Haley's reel is about 3 minutes, but it's some good stuff. And I think you did a really good job.
Thanks. And I will say there's a lot that I need to like update to it, because I did that like Tony edited it for me like 9 months ago, but yeah.
That's fine. Okay, here, we're going to take a look here at Haley's reel. All right, hold on a sec. And
let me start like this. Ain't looking for no commitment, just someone to kick it with. No expectations, won't make promises. Don't say I never warned you. Don't say I never warned you. 'Cause I'm being straight up with you right now. I'm not trying to live.
You're new?
Yeah, I'm Daphne.
Oh, I wasn't asking.
It's cool, Wendy. She's with me.
I don't like new. New comes with motives and problems.
I'm just here to see Liv.
Liv's busy.
Where are you guys going?
New's also very nosy.
Oh, stop being a bitch. Chill.
I don't want you to go. I want you to stay.
I choose you.
Menu. And what flavor might you be?
They took it. I didn't listen to what they said, and they took Tony Pop. Now, if I don't fight for him, I'm going to they're gonna.
You're gonna make me cry. She's been my rock through all of this.
Our sex life? No, everything's fine. I occasionally act like it doesn't fit, but it totally fits.
No. I always thought you were cute. Should have dated you instead of Brandon. Fuck Brandon.
What you think about music? Oh. I miss that.
I really, really could use a slice of pizza.
Me too.
You're so good. Hey, newbie. I'm your neighbor.
Hey, I'm Jessica.
Michelle. You sure you're in the right place?
What do you mean?
It's just, you don't really look like a troublemaker, you know what I mean? Let me guess. Your parents don't like your boyfriend?
How did you know?
Kind of been here so many times, I know it all. But there's a group session in 10. Some of us are going to get ice cream afterwards. Are you in?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. See you downstairs.
See ya.
It's really cold and I'm literally gonna die like you don't understand.
God, it's so dramatic. They're
There you go. There's the real good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Thanks.
Yeah. So, for those, so what I get? I think I've got to. So, I tell you, the worst part about having you in Axanar is that we really didn't get you to act.
I know. It was all just like reaction shots to like subtle reactions.
Yeah. Now, have you seen the trailer?
No one. I haven't been able to like see anything.
Oh, okay. So we'll play the trailer just so you can see it. I will say that you have you have like a little itty bitty piece in it.
Yeah, you know, whatever.
But at least you're in it.
Yeah, it's all good.
The Crystal got the last cut. She wound up on the editing room floor, so she's like, I'm never going to be an Axanar. So which is kind of funny. Okay, let's wait. Where is it? Let me get to the homepage and I'll play it for you.
Okay.
And we can all watch it together. Oh, there it is. Boom. All right. Hold on. Skip. It's a little complicated to play a video, but here we go. All right. Share audio.
Sometimes you look outside and you see a storm coming. And there's nothing you can do to stop it. You're just a witness to whatever's coming your way. But it's never the heart of the storm that matters. It's the heart of the people inside the storm.
Weapons free! Fire at will!
That's awesome.
There you go. Well, at least you're in it.
Yeah, got that good profile view.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. So I tell the story. Oops, I tell the story all the time. But so you came to an audition. I'm trying, and I guess we saw you. It's funny because I just came across your headshot like yesterday. I was cleaning out downstairs and I had the stack of all the photos that we had, and I was just going through them and throwing out the people that we didn't choose. And I had the stack of everyone that wound up making it. And I was like, oh yeah, that's right. She had blonde hair in her headshot.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, okay, like, I was like, all right. And I forgot why I think I was like, oh, tattoos, that's interesting. You had a different look. You had like overalls on or something.
Oh yeah, right? That was like with the ponytail, and I was just like,
yeah. So we like brought you in, and then you came in and you had black hair, which was good. And you did a great. Listen, I want to hear what you said, but I thought you did a great job in your audition.
Thank you.
And you were reading for the part of Korax.
Yeah.
And as I've told everyone, the only reason you didn't get the job is because you were too young.
Yeah.
Seriously, literally, that is it. I told you that.
Which is like, like when it comes down to it, you can't like.
That's not.
Can't vote that. Like you're like, oh man, like.
Yeah, I know, but well, listen. She needs an IMDb. Do you have an IMDb photo?
Okay, yeah. Well, that's for rich people. No, I do need to. I need to get it. Like, you have to I know you got to pay for like IMDb Pro, which I'm going to do like this week. Like I promise.
Do you have to wait? Do you have to have IMDb Pro to have a photo on your head?
It might have changed. I'm like the worst actor, man. Like there's so much stuff that I need to just get on top of, like a headshot on my IMDb.
Yeah. Yes, you don't have a headshot.
No.
I bet you can add one. We got to figure that out.
Yeah, I'll do it. It's fine.
You could probably have a reel too. Anyway, we'll figure it out for you. But so yeah, listen. I'll tell you a story which you'll appreciate because I told it the other day.
Yeah.
I'm about to have one of my acting coaches from LA, Ted Brunetti, on. And Ted was James Gandolfini's acting coach. And I took an auditioning class with him. And I actually told a story to Ted. I have a friend, David Dean Petrell, and he did the Sci-Fest, which was the Los Angeles one-act science fiction play festival. And when I met him, he played a very well-known character in. Did you ever see Boston Legal? Maybe.
Oh, I've heard of it. I probably have seen random episodes, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So he played this funny character who was basically like if Truman Capote was a serial killer. That's this character, right?
Nice.
And it's kind of comedic. He's very flamboyant and flaming and over the top, but it's a great, great, great character. And I was a big fan of that show. So David had called me up when I lived in LA and said, "Hey, come out to lunch. I want to talk to you because we had raised so much money for Axanar." So I'm talking to him. I was saying, "So you were an actor?" And he says, "Oh, well, I write now mostly, but I used to act." And I said, "Well, have I seen you in anything?" And he said, "Oh, well, he said I had a part in Boston Legal." I said, "I love that show. Who are you?" And he goes, "I was Lincoln Meyer." And then it hits you.
Yeah.
And I was like, "You're right. You were."
Yeah, you're right. You did play that guy.
And he was amazing. So anyway, he told me right away, he was like, "I got to tell you the story how I got that part." And he literally had an audition, didn't get the part for an audition. And 18 years later, the casting director calls him and says, "You don't remember me, but you auditioned for me 18 years ago and I have the perfect part for you." And he went and they gave him the role like that. And he turned it from it was supposed to be one episode. He turned it into like a dozen episodes. They loved him so much.
Cool.
Cool. So anyway, who knows, Haley, 18 years from now, I'm going to call you up and say, you didn't have any lines in Axanar, but.
Yeah, right. No. And that's how it is. You have to look at it as a long game thing. Like I did when I first got into this, industry, like just under 5 years ago. It's one of those things that you
Crystal just walked in. Say hi to Crystal.
What's up?
Hi.
She said, "What's up?"
You like, so I did a student thesis video for a senior at SCAD for their fashion film, right? Got it through, which I mean, sometimes it's hit or miss. I don't recommend using all the time, but I got it through Model Mayhem. Like I got contacted through the thing, but it seemed cool. SCAD's a cool university or whatever. I dropped out of college. But I did that. And then flash forward, it was like 2 years later, that same cinematographer hit me up for a Georgia tourism commercial that was like, you did that for free. And then as a starting out, you get paid like $3,000 or whatever, but you're just like, I got a vacation and got paid $3,000. Like,
not bad.
Yeah. And they hit you up and text you and it's like, hey, do you remember me from like 2 years ago? Do you want to like do this thing? And you're just like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, exactly. So Haley comes in and reads for the part of Corax, and this was before, I think you read before Carrie Ann Hunt read. Now, Carrie Ann knew Paul Jenkins. They had worked before.
Right.
And Paul had said, oh, I think she'd be really good for the role. I was like, oh, okay, whatever. Of course, having written everything and, and being that this part is, obviously it's an important part. Mm-hmm. And also, of course, it's Garth's love interest. So I've got my own vision of what Garth, but anyway, I was like, oh God, I wish Haley was 10 years older. I'd totally give her this part. Otherwise it's going to be like, it's like Garth's robbing the cradle, isn't he? It's like,
yeah, it'd be a little, they'd be like,
that's not cool, So, but you did such a great job. And,
thank you.
And so tell us from your perspective, like, I'm sure it's like one of dozens and dozens of auditions you go on. How did it hit you when you found out about it?
So it was cool because I got it through my agency. And I was never really in that world of Star Trek and sci-fi and stuff like that. I've just, with acting, you get introduced to a lot of new things, and which is one of the reasons I got involved. And when that audition hit me, I was like, oh, that sounds cool. Like to me, it did sound like an older character, but at the same time, I was like, well, I mean, you never know, age, makeup, yada, yada, like whatever. And going in, like, personally, I didn't really know what you guys wanted, like, as far as like, because of my lack of knowledge on the subject and not having immersed myself, because it was a quick turnaround, and I wasn't sure what kind of energy you were going to be needing from this person, anything like that. But what did he say? Oh, Battlestar International. I was such a dick.
You were great though.
I
was like, wow, she was really good in that.
I was such a dick.
I knew it was like, because what it was, Haley was in. I saw that clip. And I was like, I knew exactly who that girl was.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
I knew exactly who she was. Like, I knew girls like that.
Yeah. So, well, when I came into the audition, it was, it was where you guys had it was cool. Cause like, obviously normally when you do auditions, you go into the room, or 9 times out of 10, you're self-taping nowadays. But you go into the room, small room, you're doing your thing. But I liked the element of kind of being on a stage. It was new for me because I did theater in middle school, and then I did a nonprofit piece a couple of years ago that was really cool, but I hadn't really had that dynamic thrown into an audition, so it was neat to have this kind of like spotlight is definitely on you type of feel. And a lot of people don't know this about me, but I can know an audition frontwards, backwards, sideways, whatever. And my hands shake sometimes. So I've gotten really good at, because you guys kind of switched it up and you said, can you read for this? And so I have gotten really good at memorizing on the fly, so I don't have to hold my script.
Oh, wow.
People can see my handshake. So I was able to set it on the floor and just kind of be like, in my own body and not have to worry about having something in my hands. But I liked the change up of readers, because I read with Brianna, and then I read with Paul, which was great. It was a cool energy change between a male and a female type thing. And I liked how grounded I got to be in that audition. I kept it very subtle, in my opinion, as far as like I didn't want to go too over the top. When you're telling a story of trauma like that character is, you want people to listen. So you don't want to be all over the top. If anything, you want them to kind of focus in. So you need to have a lower tone and more of a seriousness to it and not go over dramatic, because you knew, like, this character knew signing up what you're signing up for, and the potential to lose people and devastation and everything that goes into warfare. So it was a cool character for me to attempt at, because
that was Kessel. That was the other character.
Right.
We gave you, yeah. So everyone should know that. So Haley read for Corax, who's one of the female leads, and then she also read for Kessel, who's a lieutenant who lost a friend.
Yeah.
And that's a really and we wound up casting. Hey, thank you, Adam Vera, for your super chat. We appreciate that. That's a really important role. And Ashley Rios, who we got to do that, I guess she nailed it on set. I guess on set, everyone was crying.
Oh, yeah.
I knew I was in there, but Paul told me she did that. So that was really good. But that was another one. You could have done that part too. That was really close. But, because you should have seen, you were like, in a way, you were like Raj Kala. Now, I don't know if Raj was there when you were there.
No.
The Indian guy. We saw in flipping through everyone's headshots and photos on the People Store website and whatever, there was this one guy, and he had this really ethnic Indian look, like the big nose. He looked like the guy from Indiana Jones.
Oh, okay.
Temple of Doom. I mean, just looked like, and he looked like really intimidating. And I said to Paul, I don't know, we have no role for this guy, but I want to see this guy.
Yeah, that's what happens.
Right. And he came in and he was reading something. I don't know if who he was reading, and it was like not right for him. And I turned around to Brianna. I said, give me your script. And I ripped out a couple pages from her script that were like Sam Travis's lines. Right. And I said, Raj, I said, would you read this? Because I realized he was reading for the wrong character. Here's a guy who was like, first of all, Raj is like 6'4", and he's like really intimidating.
I think I saw him at my audition, maybe.
Oh, okay. And so he did that, and he nailed it, and he was great. And I turned to Paul and I said, I don't know, we're going to write something for that guy. He's so damn good. And so anyway, with you, it was a similar thing in that I talked to Paul afterwards and I said, oh God, I love Haley, but she's too young for that role. And he agreed. And, but I loved the look. I loved your look. And I was like, you know what? We need a pilot for Sam Travis's Bridge. And I thought young, dark-haired female, as opposed to his old gruff, gray warhorse look. I would go, that's a look. That's going to look great on camera. And so sadly, no lines. I'm sorry. I'm going to keep apologizing to you.
It's okay. Hey, what I always tell people is like, if anything, like, yeah, if you don't have lines, you don't have lines, but like, things can happen. Like we were talking about a long game thing where it's like, oh, like they call you back for something. And then you have people being like, was that the face I saw in the thing? Like, Yeah,
so there you are on the bridge. I've got a couple photos of you on the bridge.
Straight up attitude.
Yeah. It was like, yeah, what do you want? and then this is the really funny picture. You're like, what the hell does that button do?
Oh yeah, I was like looking at the switchboard, and I'm like, act like you know what it's looking at.
Yeah, that was, and then just fun. It was just fun to have you there, and you obviously got along great with
Oh yeah.
with JG.
I have my hat. So.
There's your Hercules hat. I know. I've got. Now we have Hercules pins too, so I'm gonna have to send you a couple of those.
Oh yeah. That'd be cool.
Look, BK Glenn says this has got to be one of your friends because he hasn't been.
I don't know.
No, huh? All right. Well, BK Glenn says she looks amazing in uniform, great casting, and amazing smile. So, there you go. And Old Coat says,
My
and you
smile's
do look
too
great on
big.
camera, Haley. So yeah,
It's too big.
So what we're gonna and listen, as I was telling you a little bit before, and everyone here kind of knows we've talked about it, but so we're doing this project called War Stories, and it really came out of this whole being shut in for coronavirus. And Jeff and I are talking one day, and we're like, we need to do something. Let's get something so that when we get the green light and we can get in the studio, we have something, we shoot it, and we get it out right away. And I was like, you know what? This is what we need to do. We need to do. I'm going to get some of my science fiction writer friends, and I'm going to have them write like little letters home. Like, what's a letter home in Star Trek? It's they sit in front of the monitor and they speak to their family, and then they hit send it. It's a video, right? It's a video letter to their parents, to their loved one, their husband, wife, their kid, their superior officer, their friend, whoever. And I'm like, yeah, let's do that. So anyway, as I was scanning you, I was like, oh, well, Haley needs to be one of those.
Yeah.
Because I know you and I talked a little bit about what I thought your character's background was.
Right.
And we talked about you being a military brat.
Yeah.
I know you like that idea.
Yeah, and I think that it's fitting for someone who takes on a position like she did. Yeah,
I do too. And so I was thinking today, and I was like, oh wow, that's going to be an interesting one to write. I was like, if I can get one of the David Brin is a very famous science fiction writer, and I kind of like want to get David and tell him, show him you and show him your character and say, write for Haley. I want a letter for you talking to your dad.
Oh yeah.
About what it's about. Like, you can just see her mom and dad. Her dad was probably the hard driver who in the middle, and maybe it was her mom. We could always, I don't know. That's your call.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
yeah, I think my mom, like, I don't know, both my parents have a soft spot for me just because like of what they brought to my life. Like my dad was my dad's life was very hard growing up. So he didn't really like display like fatherhood as like a stereotypical father would. And my mom tried to like make up for that and like be overtly nice. So it was like, they both have soft spots for me because I know my dad's history and I know what my mom taught us,
Right.
So,
right. Well, yeah. And so one of your parents, whoever's the one that was in the military,
right.
I think it would be an interesting letter, like talking to that parent and saying whatever. I don't know, but I think it's got to be interesting because it would give you a really great chance to go through something with them, to tell them about how, what it's like to be. I mean, you're basically the pilot of the ship. The ship depends on you, and maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe there's times when you buckle under the pressure, or you don't buckle under the pressure, or you want to and you can't. And I don't know. There's a gazillion ways it can go, but I think you'd be great at it.
I think that's, because of the complexities that you can face in any type of position that holds that much weight, when it comes to dealing with people's lives and in a bigger picture, what's going to happen in the future to your society as a whole. You revert back to who made you who you were and what lessons you got taught as a kid, whether it be intentional or not. And I think someone like that who is a military brat in a sense can, when they get stressed out and overworked and overwhelmed, they tend to revert back to like the lessons that they were taught as a kid and what they were. And, you could go back and address those to whichever parent, she chooses for that inspiration and kind of coming to terms with maybe they were right, maybe they were wrong, like maybe a little bit of both. But it's part of the journey that you're wanting to see in these videos and what you've learned through it. And at the end of the day, when you're making videos like this, you really, really find out what's important to people. Because like,
God, it's just almost like I would love to, I could so easily see expanding one of these into, into a 10-minute short or 15-minute short and have flashbacks, right? There's so much you could do with it, but which is kind of the fun of filmmaking is, we've got our own studio. We need to do whatever we can. Right. Sublet says, or she realizes how close to death her ship and crew came to, but only her skill as a starship pilot saved the day.
I don't think I have that type of ego. Because I think someone who obviously is taught in a military type mindset from a kid, and like, mind you, my parents weren't military. My parents' stories are trips, but I have friends that are military brats and stuff like that. And I think you realize at a young age how much it isn't about you. And I think that's the last thing she would want to do is be like, everyone would be fucked without me, No,
yeah, that's not it.
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
I think it's the opposite. Like I almost got a.
But I get that notion of like wanting to. Obviously, we all dream of like getting through something and be like, I handled that fantastically. But that's not most of our realities. It's I got through that, but what could I have done better? And if you're constantly trying to be better as a person, those are the questions that you're like ongoing gonna like ask yourself.
Listen, it's always it's never the easy things that you don't want to tell the story of the easy things. You want to tell the story of the hard things. You want to, coming close to failure is always compelling.
Right. And with what I've noticed in my friends who had parents in the military, there comes a sense of loneliness as you would get in space. Whether it be a parent wasn't around, or you felt like you had to get through a lot of stuff by yourself, or you weren't sure if it was going to work out. All of those feelings are parallel throughout your life and through these events that you go through. If you're in that type of situation as a child, you're just like, oh, I remember when dad didn't come home from tour. I don't know if this is going to work out, and I have these people's lives at risk. Like, it's the same type of momentum that you're going to need to get through your days. And the lessons that you lean back on is what really, really shows if you actually learned something from the lessons you were taught, or like the experiences that you're put through.
Yeah, I know when I'd been doing it for years, but when I was crafting Garth's story, I made his father, like the constable, like the sheriff of his planet, of his colony. They live in an Earth colony. So his father was a lawman, but his mother was a xenobiologist. So that kind of informed who he was. So it gave a reason why he might have had certain expertise in war, but his love of exploration comes from his mother. And that's who he really is. He really identifies with that part of it, even though he loves and respects his father as well. Adam Vera, bumping it up to $5. Thank you. Adam Vera gives us like 10 $2 super chats per night.
Thank you.
But you're special, Haley. Adam says, dealing with old school, a female navigator or pilot would be great. Well, it was really fun. When I realized where you needed to be, it was really fun to have you on set. And it was also fun because you're not a Star Trek person. So
yeah, it's like everyone there was like a lot of people on set that were like big fans, and you felt like you couldn't talk to them because and it's just a me thing. Like they were all like super nice and everything, but you like literally were like, if they smell that I don't know shit about Star Trek, like I'm gonna get reamed. Like they're gonna be like, what are you doing here? Da, 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 da.
Because some of them were like huge Star Trek. We didn't recruit. We didn't. It wasn't a requirement, right? It was. But some were, and they were like, I'm in Star Trek. I'm in fucking Star Trek.
Oh yeah,
so funny.
it's just like you saw people like around all the time taking pictures, and in my head, I was like, for me, like everything's cool. It's a learning experience and stuff like that. And it's like a set's a set. You learn from people, you connect with people. But the amount of people that were like taking pictures, I was just like, is there something I don't know? Like, I'm very perplexed. Turns out Star Trek is very popular.
Well, you weren't on my bridge, on the Ares bridge.
No,
you were on the Hercules bridge. And you shot first. When I shot, at the beginning of the shoot, when we're waiting for everything to go on, I went around to everyone on the bridge and explained to them what their station was all about.
Right.
And why the entire crew depended on them.
Yeah.
I was like, look, you're in environmental systems, and that may sound like that's really boring. It's not weapons, and you're not the pilot, but if you do your job wrong, we all suffocate here.
We will die.
Yeah. And so it was fun to do that and to kind of talk to everyone about how important they were. And
yeah, Paul's funny, like, because he was kind of like giving us a rundown per se of like the Hercules, but it's more like, you do that, look shocked, you don't like, and you're just like, okay, cool, just let me know if you need anything, like, just let me know when the camera's on me. I don't know, man.
Yeah, no, but it turned out great. You look great, and I know JG loved having you on the bridge set, so that was awesome. And Mark, you keep sending us a super chat, but you don't say anything. So maybe you're just throwing cash.
I think he did just say something. No, that was Joseph's.
Well, he there he goes. Below his super chat, he said she can be talking about being given an award she feels she did not deserve. Those of us in the service have that attitude all the time. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's more. Yeah, I could see that. That's more like kind of like the opposite of what I forget who was saying. Kind of like boosting your own ego. It's more or less like I was doing what I'm trained to do. I didn't do this for the medals. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I know. So David Gerald, who's a very famous science fiction writer, he wrote one of the most famous episodes of Star Trek, which you probably know, The Trouble with Tribbles.
Yeah.
So David wrote that. He's a good friend of mine, and he was the first writer I told about war stories. And he was like, I'm in. He's like, I'll write one of those. And he's going to write. He wants to write one about the medical, someone on the medical team down in sick bay. And there was and he mentioned MASH, the old comedy MASH, which is before your time, I know.
Oh no, I love MASH though.
Do you really?
Yeah, I love MASH. I've seen almost every episode of MASH. I've seen every episode of Cheers. Like in the heat of the night. Like that was good. Yeah. Good. Farrell O'Connor's my shit.
Really?
All in the Family. Yeah.
Oh, you are an old soul.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Well, do you remember the episode of MASH that was black and white, and it was the newsreel photographer?
Mm-hmm.
That was the inspiration for Prelude to Axanar.
Mm.
That was literally.
Oh yeah. Okay.
That was it. It was like, oh, we're going to do that. That's what we're going to do. So David loves that episode, and so anyway, there's a great. Well, do you remember there was an episode of MASH where Radar winds up coming on the operating table. He gets injured. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I actually was just going to drop like a random fact, like from an actor's perspective. Radar, I forget that actor's actual name.
Oh, Gary Bergdorf.
Yeah. So I have been watching MASH with like my uncle and mom growing up and stuff like that. And then it was like a few years back. I was at my grandparents' house and they watched MASH all the time. And they were like, yeah, it's crazy with that. He had that hand deformation to where he would physically hold everything with his good hand. And like, you never noticed it ever.
Yeah, I know.
And as an actor, you're like, how genius to be that self-aware that, you know, every like every like movement you need to make sure that, because obviously at that point for him it's like a self-consciousness type thing.
Sure.
But like that took skill to be able to like I had no idea the entire time.
Yeah, I know. No, that was great. Well, what was great about that episode too was it's like Hawkeye freezes when he sees Radar on the radar coming on the stretcher. And that is, and I was like, David and I haven't talked about this because I'm not going to tell David how to write the story. Oh, hey. So this is Paul Osborne, who was there. You'd recognize him. Anyway, Crystal's taking up a fund that once she gets $500, she gets to shave my head on the show. So
nice.
Military, not like bald, but military, like I'm being in the Marines.
I've shaved my head.
I was told her, I said, I'm down for it. First of all, I wear a hat most of the time anyway, just because I do it live stream in the morning, and half the time I haven't worked out and showered and everything. So my hair is like standing up. So I'm always wearing a hat. So I'm like, I wear a hat.
This is the first time. Like I think I've kind of done my hair maybe like 3 times in the past like month and a half. So I was like, I have a reason.
Yeah, there you go. We're honored that you did your hair for us.
Thanks.
So thanks. Sturm, I'll let Crystal know she's got another $19.99 to play with.
Someone just said 500. You say, someone's like, do it now.
Dude, Ed's the guy that spent $500 in the store the other day. So
if you hit it in this episode, you've got to do it now. Like
Ed, if you go to the store and spend $500, we'll do it tonight.
Like you have tonight.
I'll have to shout down to Crystal. Ed's warming it up, Crystal.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, what I did like about being a part of it is that is what a lot of people have mentioned in the character is depicting a strong female lead. As far as like when you're a pilot and you're flying, people see you in a different light and stuff like that. And what I've liked about the industry, specifically in Atlanta, is that I see a lot of female-driven stuff. You know what I mean? Producers, writers. Like I worked on a film, I think it was maybe the fall into what, I don't know. It was like 5 time is a construct. But it was
recovery there.
So it's an independent horror film written by my friend Desiree Connell. She's an amazing writer, producer, like director. She is PGA of this independent horror film that's coming out called Bad Candy. And she's one of the most kind, hardworking people I know. And because I think I did that before I did Axanar, whatever, like I said, and working with her and getting to know her, because the scene I did in her film, it took a special type of delivery to get me to like be on board with the scene, because it's a very weird, bizarre scene on paper. And she's in the room with me being like, okay, so we're going to do A, B, and C. I'm not going to like talk about what's in the film, but, and she was like, and I promise that like, I will be there the whole time. We're shooting it this way. It's going to be like this type of professionalism. If you feel uncomfortable and at any point, like, let me know. I shut down. And it's one of those things that like through working in Atlanta, I've met a lot of strong females, but I've also met a lot of males that want to like kind of empower females and work with them. And they see that like, in order to tell a good story, you need both perspectives. Like,
of course.
You need your
Well, listen, Kate Vernon, who played Sonia Alexander in Prelude. She wasn't even in. I hadn't even have a role for her. And at WonderCon in 2013, I guess it was, or 2000. I guess it was 2013, or 2014. Anyway, Richard Hatch was signing.
Time is a construct.
Time is a construct. I'm going to use that from now on. Time is a construct. And I sat down with Richard Hatch and we were chatting, and then who of course plays the Klingon in Prelude. Right. And then Kate was right next to him because they were both in the new Battlestar Galactica, which you need to watch because you would love it. That show is made for you. That's the science fiction show made for you.
Down.
But anyway, so I started talking to Kate, and she had a great role in Galactica. She's a great actress. She is the daughter of John Vernon, very famous Hollywood actor, who was Dean Wormer in Animal House.
Nice.
Or he was also the sheriff in The Outlaw Josie Wales, where he was amazing. But anyway, so she's a legacy. She's like she's Hollywood royalty, and so I chatted with her for like 20 minutes, and then I walked away. We were leaving, and I was walking away from her table, and I was like, I have got to write a part. She has got to be a captain in Starfleet. And so I wrote the part, and she's like this foul mouth, ass kicking female. And it was interesting because like a week before we shot, she called me up, and I'll never forget. I was on the 101 South in LA, and she called me up and she's like,
I know when you're in LA because you call highways the 101,
and the 405, yeah. So and she calls me up and she goes, Alec, she says, I'm having a hard time getting a hold of this character. And I'm like, so, okay, what's the problem? She goes, well, and the gist of it was that she didn't want to draw on male strength for this character.
Okay.
And I said, well, Kate, there's plenty of symbols of female strength that have nothing to do with male strength. I said, Wonder Woman. I said, do you ever read comics? I said, we talked it out, and I told her, I said, find the things that women have over men. I mean, let's face it.
Lucille Ball bankrolled Star Trek.
Oh, Haley, where'd you pick that out of? You were doing your research before.
I was.
You're good. All right. We love. Yeah.
I was like, that's why. Like, here's the thing. I had the time to like research a little bit.
There you go. That's good stuff, man. Good stuff. Way to go. So anyway, and so it was fun talking to her about that. And then she nails it, right? She totally nails that part. And she's everyone loves her as that role. But I think the point is that and in the full script, she gets some great stuff in the full script of Axanar. But the point being is that it's fun to write strong female characters. It's harder, I think, to write strong male character. It's not hard. It takes more thought to write male characters without being
overly
cliche.
masculine. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I mean, exactly. You don't want to default to macho, and female characters are hard because you don't want to default to male strength.
Right.
So it's. I just think
I think the strength is interpreted differently when it comes to masculine and feminine and stuff like that. I mean, we could talk for days, but like the
right there, perfect. Yeah. Montebail says,
there we go.
Sigourney Weaver in Aliens, right?
Yeah.
Especially in Aliens, it's the beauty of her strength in Aliens is the maternal instincts in protecting Newt against the alien queen. I mean,
Sarah Connor.
Yeah, it's
Terminator.
Yeah,
baby.
There's lots of examples of strong, and so it always amazes me when, when men or people are like, "Oh, we need a strong male lead." People don't want to watch a female lead. I'm like, really? What Hollywood are you living in?
Dude, in what year are you living in?
Because, right?
We're slowly but surely progressing and digressing in the same sentence. But it's one of those things that like we're learning as a society that perspective is everything, and perspective in numbers gives you really the knowledge that you need in order to connect with people. So if you're willing to put yourself in situations that you're gaining perspective from different people that you don't necessarily have to like relate to, but that's the beauty of it. That's where you're gaining the perspective because you can't relate to them in certain degrees. They might say something that you can relate to, and then therein lies connections with people, And with storytelling, it's all about how do the characters connect? and you need both energies in order to do that. I mean, it's just kind of, if you see a story told by one perspective, like, it's just, I don't know, for me, I don't learn anything because I'm like, well, you learn how that one person thinks, but you don't learn how maybe someone else thinking, like someone else thinks can affect that character at all. So without having even conflict is what you need with the energies as well when it comes to male and female.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I love characters that play against type.
Yeah.
It's much more interesting. Right? It's like, I always want I always want the guy who's the stereotypical bad guy. Who's the guy that in Hollywood who's always casted as a bad guy? That's the guy I want to be. That's the guy I want to cast in the role that you think he's the bad guy, and at the end he's the good guy. Because then you're going, holy shit, I haven't seen that. I didn't see that coming.
Well, you know what a really good example for me of a male character that you see constantly doing over the top masculine machismo type performances is why am I drawing a blank? Scarface.
Al Pacino,
right? So he does a lot of like over the top, like guns, but what a lot of people that I've known haven't seen is he did a film. It was right around the time of Scarface. I think it was maybe the year before, but it's called Panic in Needle Park. And he plays a recovering heroin addict.
Yeah.
And you see some of those mannerisms, but you often also see the softer side. Like when he realizes his girlfriend used heroin for the first time out in the alleyway playing kickball with kids. And he realized it was because of him. And you just see this like man who just has everything under control. Like he realized what he's done to this person that he loves, and he completely softens. And it's this like, you've got to see for like all actors like character arcs. So do people, because they want to see change. They want to see characters learn something, and you have to have interactions with people in order to learn anything. So you can't just interact with the same breed of person and then be like, yeah, but I've learned, I've gained some perspective of who.
Yeah, no, that absolutely true. Adam Vera, thank you again. We appreciate that.
Thanks, Adam.
Chester says, one strength of women, they like the rules to be followed. When the rules aren't followed, they can become wrecking balls to restore order. I don't know, Haley, you comment on that. I don't want to comment on that.
One strength of women is they like the rules to be followed. When the rules aren't followed, they can become wrecking balls to restore order. So I think with women, it's dependent on the cause. I think, you know how men are grown up to the whole aspect of like, don't cry, you're tough, da 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 da. Well, women are kind of grown up in the idea of you need to take care of things, you need to protect, you need to nurture, you need to love. So when it comes to like your family, your friends, stuff like that, yeah, like you will go to that, like you will move mountains and stuff like that. But we're also taught, and this is where I struggle, is you need to be quiet, you need to be polite, you need to be pretty, you need to do all this stuff. And if you raise your voice and come across as anything other than eloquent and pristine, you're a bitch. When at the end of the day, I'm just speaking my opinion.
Just like guys do.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not like, yeah, everyone can be a bitch or whatever, but like at the end of the day, having a strong opinion does not make you that. Having a strong opinion just makes you a person with ideals and morals that you want to stand up for.
Oh yeah, there's such a double standard in that regard as far as.
Well, and yeah, what he's saying, I think women are having to go. I think women sometimes feel like they have to be a little louder to get their voices heard because it's taken so long for that to happen.
Absolutely. Listen, I'd rather have women running the country than old white men. Believe me.
Yeah, and that's one thing I feel comfortable talking to you about, because I realize that you're. I mean, as far as women go, you're an ally, and I think we all need to be allies to each other. As big of an idea as that is, it's the only way to grow.
Yeah, listen, I was talking with an actor, one of the actors from Star Trek, from one of the Star Trek series yesterday, who's has started a production company, and he's got a script, and we're talking about it, and he's been a big fan of Axanar for years, and we just started reconnecting again, and it's like, Alec, I want to send you this script, and we were talking about it, and he's basically telling me, we're talking about how in Hollywood there's people come out with scripts and they're being pigeonholed as, oh, well, that's an African American script, or that's a white script, or that's an Asian script, or so that's not. And he's like, wait, why isn't it a people script? What does it matter what color they are? It's right, what color you are. And because my attitude is like, when gay marriage became legal, my nephews who are in their 20s, they're all like, yeah, what the fuck's the big deal? And right, and it's my generation that had to get over themselves, but your generation is like, why are we even arguing about this? Well, this is not an issue.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, it's those steps that we're taking as a society, as humans, that it's going to be bridging gaps and stuff like that, because we're in a generation where like certain kids are growing up in this progressive type environment, and I say progressive with leniency because a lot of stuff still has some work to be done, but and then you have their grandparents or whatever being like, this is crazy, and they're like, what's crazy? Like,
I know, right?
Like, and it's funny to see those conversations happening, though.
Yeah, no, listen, absolutely. It's I think I don't know. I've always been this way, and it's funny because I grew up in like the total rich white community. But when I got to college, I was like, oh, this is totally cool. Everyone's different here. It was a lot cool. It was interesting. If everything's the same, it's boring, man.
Life, I mean, what's the variety is the spice of life, Well,
it's funny because like J.G. Hertzler is this, we always talk about it, is this like really far left progressive. And then Gary Graham, who you didn't mean but he plays the Vulcan. He's like this, one of the few right-wing conservatives in Hollywood. And so we got both of them on the set at the same time, but they get along great, and they get along great because they don't talk about politics on set. But it's really interesting to see two, and they're the same generation, and you're going, wow, how did you two guys become? How are you so different? It's amazing. I think nowadays, it's just it's I don't know, it makes me happy that hey, listen, one of our guys here has a kid who's transgendered. And he was talking about it yesterday, and it was awesome the way he was talking about it, how he was supportive he was of his son. And I was like, God bless you, man. That's awesome.
And like that kid is very fortunate because, I have friends that are trans, bi, gay, pansexual. Like it's all a spectrum. And at the end of the day, like if you're just willing to accept people and realize that like their life choices are not going to hurt you, like it just let people be. And, if it bothers you, just don't acknowledge it. Don't waste your energy. But I was fortunate to be raised by a mother that was like, I don't care what color, what gender, what their hair looks like, where they're from, whatever. Like, unless they give you a reason to not associate with them, then everyone is unequal to you. Like, you are not better than anyone, and no one is better than you. And I think when you come across parents that are so accepting of stuff like that, it really, I don't know, it gives you hope, man, because you're just like, it's tough for kids, like that's not a choice. I don't give a shit what anyone says. It is not.
Oh no, it's not. And well, listen, on our December shoot, we had someone who was non-binary, and that was wild for me because I was like, okay, and I just went right up to them and I said, okay, let me profess my ignorance. How would you like me to address you? Tell me about it. And they opened up to me, and I was like, I said, I'm ignorant. I want to make sure you feel comfortable on the set. And anyway, they're going to come on our show one night, and ironically, it was a couple, and so they're both going to come on the show and talk to us about it, because I'm like, look, this is a learning opportunity for us. This is what Star Trek's about. Star Trek is about accepting all of our differences. And, so we think we have problems on Earth. Imagine 300 years from now when you're dealing with other civilizations, right?
Oh, dude, it's mind blowing to me. And that's the thing, is the fact that you did that. And like, for me, and for anyone I know that identifies as anything other than gay or straight, you know what I mean? It's those things that, and those questions that like make them realize like you give a shit, and no one's going to be mad at you for being ignorant. They're going to be mad if you're ignorant and don't do anything to change that. Yeah. Yeah. And I bet you it meant so much to that person for you to come up and be like, how would you like me to address you? What can I do? Like, I have not been faced with a situation like that. So for, you to admit that, I'm sure they were just like, yo, like, thank you for caring, Well,
and do you know why I even had the basic understanding of this situation was there's a character like that in Billions, my favorite show on TV, which is Paul Giamatti and Damian Lewis. And there's it's actually an actor who was also in, the actor was also in John Wick 3. But anyway, and they come in it's season 2, I think they come in and they're like, they come in and right off the bat, they're like, this is how you address me. And it's a character that looks, you're like, she looks female, but right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, this is fascinating. And I like IMDb'd her and I read about her and I was like, oh, okay, well, this is, it's 20 years ago, we were worried about how do you deal with gay people. Now he's like, oh, it's totally like, my gay friends, I'm like, you're easy, get out of here.
Yeah.
It's like, but it's fascinating and it enriches your world and it makes you go, on one level, it makes you go, you think I have problems?
Dude, yeah, that type of struggle is something I won't be able to relate to. I'm a straight female, you know what I mean? But it's something that I want to become more involved with and learn more about, because there are still things that I'm ignorant about. You know what I mean? It just comes from asking the right questions. This was covered lately. I would look. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a good point. Vega 831. Okay. Vega 831. Yeah. Listen, one of the things we talk about people have asked me, hey, is anyone, is there going to be a gay relationship in Axanar? And I go, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 300 years from now.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit if you're straight or gay? There are people sleeping with
sexuality is a construct.
There you go. So, I mean, I think it'll, I mean, they're going to be dealing with it in season 2 of Picard. They get 831. We find out that one of the main characters may be in a gay or a lesbian relationship, which is cool.
Yeah.
So what? Big deal. It was so funny too, because everyone's like, "Did you see them? They were holding hands." I was like, "Okay, so so what?" And what exactly? Jim, I don't think you're the oldest person here. I think I'm the oldest person here. So, but have you ever been to Dragon Con, Haley?
Yeah, I've been.
Yes, no, you liked it, didn't like it?
It was cool. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like for me, so what people need to know about me is I get sensory overload sometimes. I've gotten it since I was a kid. So like I sometimes lack the ability to turn off certain senses. As far as like I'll take in everything I'm seeing, smelling, like hearing, feeling, tasting, everything at once. So like big crowds, I have to kind of like really prep myself for.
Interesting.
But what I liked about Dragon Con is because of how spaced out it is. Also, everyone's nice as shit, for the most part. there's always going to be a few rotten apples, but everyone was like super nice. Everyone's just, it's literally like their nirvana of conventions for a lot of people, because it's literally what I've heard from because I talked to a lot of people I didn't know there, and I was like, so what do you like about Dragon Con and stuff like that? And they literally said that they would go to cons all over, and they said Dragon Con is one of their favorites because they feel like it's one of the least commercialized, come as you are type of events. That they don't feel is a popularity contest, and they just literally can come and have a good time. And I was fortunate to have, so like three or 4 years ago, I did a film with my friend Joseph Lavender, The Girls Against Humanity. In my reel, I was like lighting this piece of paper on fire. That was in the Dragon Con Film Festival. And then Playtime's Over was the film that Tony and I did together with our friend Todd Jacobs. And that was in Dragon Con this past year. It was either this past year or the year before. Time is a contract. But I've had films in it for 2 years, 2 or 3 years. But I honestly, like, I want to go again. Part of me is a little hesitant this year, obviously. But
this year may be tough.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass on this year, but I will go full force in 2021.
Yeah, well, yeah, and we were hoping to premiere Axanar at Dragon Con this year. And, I don't know. I guess that may not happen. So
for me,
John Tessler, who's one of our regulars, says, Haley, for me, I can't do crowds due to having PTSD from military combat. I can't have people standing behind me or entering my personal space.
Yeah.
You know,
and
there's another thing.
I'm sorry you deal with that, John. I mean, that's one of those things that, like, personal space is huge for me. I can't relate to military. I can't imagine what that feels like. But dude, kudos to you. And I know it takes strength to go out every time you do. So just little events, you'll be cool. And maybe I don't know if you do this thing, but I do that thing where I don't sit with my back or anything facing a door. I have to see the exits. So
interesting. Okay. Interesting. You know, the other thing about Dragon Con, Haley, having gone to a gazillion conventions, is almost every other convention is at a convention center.
Yeah.
Dragon Con is at hotels.
Yeah. And I think that's what's cool for a lot of people is like, yeah, there's conventions that happen at hotels and meeting rooms and stuff like that. But I think Dragon Con spreads over like what, 3 hotels? 4?
5.
Yeah, because like
it
the
used to be the Hyatt, then it was the Hyatt and the Marriott, then it was the Hyatt, the Marriott, and the Hilton, then the Sheraton, and now the Westin. So
you register at the Sheraton, though. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that is correct. That is correct. So what we're doing this year is, because I know Dragon Con's not going to happen, is we're going to have our own convention. So we're literally going to have a virtual convention.
Oh, cool.
And so you will definitely be part of that, because we'll have multiple Axanar panels and stuff. So I want to have things on like acting and, just everything.
How long my arms are. It's like taking up a lot of space. Sorry.
It's just a construct.
Yeah. Space is a construct.
That's right.
Well,
so
Sturm von Alk.
That's Paul Osborne. You met Paul. Sturm von Alk is the name of their dog.
Oh, it's because he's German. He's a German Shepherd, yeah. Yeah,
the German Shepherd. As a matter of fact, they just adopted one of the dogs that we rescued.
Oh, yeah. I saw that.
You saw it, yeah. I know. So I just saw him the other day too. Well, it's funny. They invited me over, so I was picking up some other rescue dogs to transport in. So I said, "Can I come by and see Artemis?" And they were like, "Sure." So I get out of the car with my mask and my hat, and Artemis just starts going crazy, barking at me. I was like, "Okay, I had to take off my mask and my hat."
Yeah. How are those dogs doing?
Oh, they're all great. Every one of them has a great home now.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to see, and Artemis is wonderful. So so all good. All right. Well, listen, we're going to wrap it up because we've gone over. Because Haley, you're so awesome. So
it's been fun.
Yeah, it's been great. Thanks so much. I can't wait for us to get together. I am going to. You and I will talk offline about your stories.
Yeah. Like truly, that sounds like a really cool cool project that you guys have.
Yeah, because I don't know if you want to write something, or if you have a friend you want to write something with, or you want me to get one of my writers to write something for you. We could, whatever.
Yeah. There's or like even of a collaborative event. Wait, do I play that instrument on the wall behind?
What, the ukulele?
No, I'm a fucking poser, you guys. This is all aesthetics, except the art is mine. Like this is like I do my own art. Like this is all mine.
All right.
But yeah, I haven't done like this is something that I need to like figure out. So maybe on the next episode.
There we go. Yeah, we'll have it in your quarters when we shoot your war story.
Yeah.
All right, Haley. Thanks so much. We love you. We appreciate you. It's good seeing you again. And look at that. She even nails the Vulcan salute. We got it. We will see everyone tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock for the weekend brunch with Axanar.
Yeah, Vulcan salute was also like a Hebrew thing. So just so everyone
That's
knows.
right. Exactly. That's right. That's how Leonard Nimoy came up with it. So good for you.
Oh, also random fact, because I actually did do some research and didn't get to use any of it. Shatner literally can't do this.
I'm not surprised. All
right, Alec, thank you for having me on. Melissa, thank you for producing, and thanks to everyone who tuned in. It was really cool. I didn't get to like read everything, but it's
You're welcome.
Melissa's doing her hair.
There we go. Hey, it takes a village, you guys. We all have to multitask. Women are good at it.
I'm producing and dyeing my hair. You know I love you guys.
We love you.
Bye, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.